design that is universal and achievable by everyone. Fred is a well-known entrepreneur in Halifax, Nova Scotia, with a successful salon, cafe, and gallery. He's also been a self-esteem and makeover expert on the hit Canadian television show X-Weighted. Fred very much enjoys this role, loving that he in some way helped many people to realize their true potential. Fred brings all of these experiences and perspectives to his dynamic, inspirational presentation here at the show today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Fred Connors.
Thank you very much. It's so nice that there's actually a lot of people here. I enjoy lots of people. I was asked to come and speak on the idea of self-confidence and being successful and achieving your goals, because it's what a lot of people see me doing on television in the mounds and mounds of reruns of X-Weighted that have taken over the Canadian television airwaves. Every time I turn on the TV, there's yet another network carrying reruns of X-Weighted, so it makes me seem like I'm extremely popular. And I like being popular. Thanks everybody for being here this afternoon. One of the things that I think is really important to talk about with respect to being successful is something that people don't like to talk about, and that is being colossal failures. Because it is through being a big old failure that we then get to learn how to be better and more successful. And failing builds confidence, and failing builds self-esteem, and it takes a lot of resiliency for someone who has experienced failure to then go on and learn from it, stop being a big old dummy, and then become successful at it. Has anyone in this room failed at anything? Have we all? I assume people are here because they've at least failed at something. Because if you didn't fail at anything, there's no reason for you to drive out here and be here today. So I think there's probably more failures in the room than are actually admitting to being a failure. And I think being a failure at something, like I said, is incredibly important. I think it's funny that I'm even here right now talking about being successful and talking about self-confidence and self-esteem, because although I've always had a lot of self-confidence, I was one of those very small, very gay, loudmouth kids who thought he was great at everything. And subsequently I got beat up a lot. That's what built, I think, the resiliency that I have and has allowed me to go on and be successful. But there are three things that I failed at for a very, very, very long time. And the first thing was sports. Not a surprise. I was always the kid at every grade level that nobody ever wanted to have on their team. I sucked at everything. If I saw a football coming towards me, I would run in the other direction. If I saw a hockey puck coming at me, I would just crouch down on the ice and then figure skate. Because it was really the only thing I was good at as a kid, was figure skating. And in the 1970s, if you were a 4-foot-tall gay figure skater, you also got beat up a lot. I can attest to that firsthand. So it's interesting that I've sucked at sports. The next thing that I really sucked at was business. And also I find it interesting now that I speak to a lot of groups in a lot of communities, a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of struggling business people about how to be successful at business when I sucked at it for so long. The other thing I sucked at was being on television. I got fired from my first 2 TV jobs. Was not really great for the self-esteem, but I thought if I belong on television, I got to figure out why I keep getting fired from the jobs that I get and why I suck at it, and somehow get better so that if I get another job on television, people, one, will want to watch me, and I'll get to stay there for a while. So with respect to sports, it's no surprise that I sucked at sports. But one of the things that I realized about sports and being an athlete was that you don't have to be a superstar in order to be a good athlete or be successful in any sports endeavor. When I was 38 years old, I decided, plain and simply, I just wanted to learn how to swim. I didn't want to compete in any world event. I didn't want to break any world records. I didn't want to be amazing as an athlete. I just plain and simply wanted to learn how to swim. So at 38, I decided that I would take swimming lessons, And then when I realized that swimming is more than just having fun splashing around in the water, that it's about actually pushing your body, it's about improving your skills, it's about being able to noticeably get better at something every single time you tried it, my swim teacher, who then became my coach, encouraged me to go on and start competing in triathlons. And then I realized after 38 years, you know, I don't suck at sports as much as I thought I did. I was just doing the wrong ones. I'm never going to be a basketball player. I'm never going to be a football player. Look at me, for God's sakes. But I'm a really good swimmer, and I'm built for running and those types of endurance sports. So competing in triathlons was something that I was capable of doing. With the right mentorship and the right focus, I was able to do well. And so I realized I've overcome my challenges of not being able to be an athlete by being the type of athlete that I could actually be. And I had to fail at every other sport in order to figure out there is one out there that I could possibly be good at, and that was swimming, which led to competing in triathlons, which I did twice and thought, okay, that's enough. I'm done with that. And then I talked about sucking at business. I made a lot of really bad business mistakes. And because I operate now on the corner of, where do I operate out of? North and Agricola Street in Halifax. I've built a really successful brand. I've reached out to my community and contribute to making the community more of a successful place. I've got my own cosmetic line. There's things going on behind me. They really have nothing to do with anything I'm saying. They're just there to make me look better. But I have learned how to become a good business person because I failed at it a lot. And everybody thought that I was always successful because in the last 5, 6, 7 years, I have been successful, but it took about 20 years of really sucking a lot to get really, really good so that I could become successful. When I was a young entrepreneur, I was 19 years old. I did not go to university. I started my own business, working as a clothing designer, and surprisingly, I awarded the contract to design and manufacture the uniforms for the Canada Games in 1986. And thinking I knew everything, because I was such a good business person when I was 19 years old with no education or no mentors, I was going to design the uniforms for the Canada Games all by myself. I'm not going to go to any experts. I'm not going to get the financial advice that I need, the legal advice that I need. I'm not going to go to people who have actually done amazing things and get them to help me. I'm going to do it all by myself. I totally lost the contract to design the uniforms for the Canada Games. I felt like a colossal failure in the meantime. It was supposed to be the thing that was going to make me a superstar. 19-year-old Halifax fashion designer designs the uniforms for the Canada Games. Everybody was going to think that I was so amazing, I was going to retire. And I lost this contract because I wasn't able to deliver. I wasn't able to make good business decisions. My confidence was so high, I thought that I couldn't possibly fail, yet I managed to fail. And then that led to TV appearances because I ended up on the news. And so as a colossal failure, I'm now on the news, and I realize I also suck on television because I look like a colossal failure on television, and who would do that to themselves? Me. And so after making that one bad business decision, I went on to make several bad business decisions. I made some good ones along the way, but I made lots and lots and lots of mistakes. And then 7 years ago, I had the opportunity to buy the Bank of Nova Scotia building on the corner of North and Agricola Street, which was filled with rats. It housed homeless people and drug addicts. It was covered in graffiti. And the North End was not a neighborhood that people were going to seek opportunity. People were going to the North End to buy drugs, pay for cheap sex, sleep on the streets. And when I decided to purchase this building, everybody thought that I was insane. The reason I decided to purchase this building was because I had no other options. It was the cheapest building available in the city, and I had to buy a building to stick my employees in so that we could continue to cut hair. And so I went about buying this building, and I had to try to do it 12 times, failing each time. before I could finally manage to buy the building. People thought it just magically happened. I just waltzed into the bank, bought the bank, turned it into this magical place, and presto, I was successful. It took me a lot of tries, a lot of failures, a lot of going back to the board, learning what I did wrong at that bank, then going to another bank. It meant leveraging all of my worth, all of my assets, all of everything that I had to be able to get people to take me seriously, still fail, go back to another bank, rewrite a business plan, go back to another bank, rewrite a business plan, tighten up my presentation. Every single time I went to a bank, I had to learn something new to get better. So one day, maybe they would take me